All right, guys. So what is it about the Super Glide that we love? If you watched the last video, hang out for this video because we're going to dive into it a little bit deeper. Alright guys, welcome back to this episode of Rolling with T-Bone. As we're rolling down the road on the dirty blue moon. Needs a bath. If you're new here, welcome in. My name's T-Bone. I shoot motorcycle related content and, well, any kind of content really. If you're old here, welcome back. You know what's going on. Like I said, we're rolling down the road on the Super Glide Blue Moon. If you're new here, this is Blue Moon 97 Dyna Super Glide, one of the members of the stable for Rolling with T-Bone. If you watched the last video on the Dyna series, guys, you got to hear about the beginnings of the Super Glide. Now, I kind of left it off at a spot because a significant thing happened after 1980 that would really set the tone for the rest of the decade, and really the next 2 decades. Because in 1982, we see the next invention come off of the Super Glide platform. And that is nothing short of the 1982 Super Glide 2. Now, the Super Glide 2, you're about to recognize something when I say it. The Super Glide 2 is the FXR. That's right. The letters changed to the FXR. And man, the FXR would become the platform for a lot of things. Of course, the most famous FXR to gurus of motorcycles and movie aficionados is the 1985 FXR that was used in the movie Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. So in 1982, Harley Davidson introduced the Super Glide 2, which basically was the first rendition of the FXR. Now, the FXR would last for a long time. You know, we were talking about this a little bit earlier about the Super Glide platform. Willie G knew what he had when he built the Super Glide. He knew that he had a platform that he could go in a lot of different directions. So the Super Glide 2 comes along, and you know, the FXR series begins and it sets the world on fire again, which is a common theme that you'll notice when it comes to Willie G. Now, moving from 1982 to the year 1984, you see another rendition that bounces off of the Super Glide platform. And I have talked to people who will arguably say this might be the most popular version of the Super Glide to come out. In 1984, with the Evo engine as its power plant, Willie G introduced the Lowrider. Now, the Harley Davidson Dyna Lowrider, excuse me guys, a lot of crap floating around the air out here on a beautiful day. The Lowrider came along in '84, and basically what Willie G had done was took the Super Glide frame, lowered it down, put a drop down seat on it for the Lowrider effect. And the Lowrider, like I said, a lot of people will argue that the Lowrider became the most popular Dyna ever built. Of course, all of those bikes coming from the Super Glide platform, the Super Glide being the first in the Dyna series that really got popular. But, you know, again, the Lowrider was kind of like the FXR in '82, kind of like the Wide Glide in 1980. It was Willie G taking a stock ideal, which was good, and then building off of it. So 1984, the lowrider hit the shelves, and guys, this bike blew up and became super popular, super popular. It wasn't touted as a factory chopper like the Wide Glide was, but you could tell that there was chopper influence on the 84 lowrider, and I'll try to insert some photos of all these bikes in. I've tried to do it on the last video, but the lowrider would morph a couple of times in its lifetime, and still to this day the dyna lowrider in 2023 is just as significant as it was in 1984, because now you've got the lowrider S and the lowrider ST, and arguably in 2022, when the lowrider ST, when Harley got all the fairing right, got the bags right, now these days on new model motorcycles, the lowrider ST is probably at the head of the pack on popularity. That is probably the most popular motorcycle that Harley Davidson has built in a while. The lowrider ST seems to have a huge fan base. Everybody who rides them loves them, and everybody that I know wants to ride one to see if they can like it themselves. And again, you know, if you own a lowrider ST and you're watching this video, you know, your history lesson will start all the way back in 1984 to realize how you get to the lowrider ST of 2023. But nonetheless, we're talking about the Super Glide and all the stuff that came out of the Super Glide platform. But I tell you guys, I'm still just a fan of the regular old Super Glide. When I first got this bike, it wasn't exactly my cup of tea per se. It wasn't, you know, it really wasn't what I liked in a motorcycle. So when I got it, I got the bars changed out. I got a few things changed around on the bike to make it a little bit more comfortable for me, to make it the way I want it to be. And Blue Moon has slowly creeped his way into my heart, which, you know, he's from the you know, the Super Glides of the 90s. People say they're from the FXR family, which they're not. The FXR family is from the Super Glide family. The platform for all of those bikes was the Super Glide. It was the very first one introduced. But, you know, it was kind of par for the course for what you would see Willie G. Davidson do in his time as the head of, you know, creative design. He was the president over that department for a long time. And, I mean, Willie G, in just the 3 decades that we focus on most here, that being the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, Willie G had a big effect on the way we look at the Harley Davidson motorcycle. You know, if you enjoy the look of a factory chopper with a low seat, low slung, Wide Glide front end, you know, you got to thank Willie G for that. If you like the Super Glide, if you're drifting them down the street and people are buying the Super Glides and the lowriders, the older model ones, and they're raising them up and they're making stunt bikes out of them, doing wheelies down the road, if you enjoy that, I mean, you've got to thank Willie G. You know, if you're riding a Softail, you got to thank Willie G, because Willie G was the guy who brought all these things into the existence. He brought all these things into existence for motorcycle lovers, and you really have to chalk all this up to Willie G taking a page out of his ancestors' book, because they, back in the 30s and 40s, especially when the knucklehead came along, Bill Harley and Arthur Davison and all those guys were kind of getting older, and they were coming to the end of their run with the company, and the knucklehead was actually the last engine that I think Bill Harley actually designed. But, you know, they would go out and they would watch what people were doing with their older motorcycles. So they found these kids who were taking the older motorcycles and they were changing around engine parts, making them faster, and they were racing them. It wasn't board track racing, but they were just out on the back roads and the dirt roads, just racing these bikes, having a blast with them. And that would kind of be what the influence of the 40s and 50s Harley Davidsons would kind of glue onto. So it was the same with Willie G. Willie G came along at a magical time in the company's history, having been bought by AMF, having been able to repurchase the company back from AMF and become a standalone entity. You would see Willie G go back to the chopper culture of the 60s and 70s. And he would design these factory motorcycles that just turned out to be some of the most beautiful Harley Davidsons, personally, I think, ever built. So yeah, I mean, if you're enjoying your modern Lowrider ST or your modern Dyna, your Fat Bob, you got to thank Willie G, because without Willie G's forward thinking and without Willie G going backwards, you wouldn't have some of the bikes that you enjoy today. Certainly the Super Glide is no exception. This is a Willie G bike. This bike was designed and pinned by Willie G, and I think he first pinned this bike in 1972, but it actually didn't make it to production until 76. So, there you go. I mean, you got lineage. And it's just like any other bike that Harley Davidson produces. I mean, your modern day bagger, your Road Glide, its lineage goes all the way back to 1980 with the Tour Glide being introduced. Your modern Softail that you love to ride, whether it be the Breakout or whether it be the Fat Boy, again, that goes all the way back to Willie G designing in the 80s. And the Softail will actually be in the next series that I do, will be about the Softail, specifically about the Springer. And again, that's no different than these bikes. Willie G went backwards in time and made beautiful designs, all retro design, but he made it modern for the time. So I mean, yeah, that's kind of just, I know that's kind of a long way of going around saying I love the Dyna, love the Super Glide platform. One of my favorite bikes came along in the 90s off of the Super Glide platform. Again, it was the 91 Dyna Sturgis, except it was the Evo, and it was modern. It was the modern Super Glide, again blacked out, red trim. But they were just, to me, they were far better looking bikes than what came out in 1980. Not to say that the original Shovelhead Sturgis is a bad bike, it's not. I just personally like the Evo version of it. And then of course the next year, Willie G would dive back into the Super Glide platform again, and he would come up with the anniversary Dyna Daytona Glide that they did for the anniversary of Daytona Bike Week. And the Super Glide platform just gave birth to so many iconic motorcycles. And like I was saying a minute ago, it's just kind of par for the course for what Harley Davidson done. If you enjoy your big bagger, like I said, that came from 1980. That was the Tour Glide, the shark fairing that's just all the rage right now and has been for the last few years. That came from the Tour Glide. That was introduced in 1980. If you're an electric glide fan, that goes even further back. If you just love cruisers, whatever cruiser you're riding today has a lineage that goes all the way back. If you ride a chopper, again, your lineage goes back to Harley Davidson to the 60s and the 70s. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that with the Super Glide platform, Willie G was able to really just bring forward some of the most beautiful iconic motorcycles that are on t-shirts, on pictures, on TV and movies. the Softail has gotten a lot of movie play, a lot of television play, but we'll be getting into that when we get into the Softail series. But I tell you what, guys, if you watch both videos, drop down and just hit the like button and let me know that you watched them. It helps me out in the algorithm. You know, if you don't care, comment, let me know what you thought about the series, because we've got the Sportster series that's going to be coming up later on. I haven't got everything just completely the way I want it for the Sportster series yet, and I'm actually overthinking the Sportster series, so I may end up just going back to the drawing board and just kind of doing something simple like I did for the Fat Boy, I'm doing for the Super Glide, what I plan on doing for the Springer. But comment, let me know what you guys think. If you're enjoying it, or yeah, this really ain't your cup of tea, you know, that's fine. I'm not for everybody. I'm not saying that I am. But like, comment, share, subscribe. You know, tell a friend, hey, go check this crazy guy out. He just rides around and runs his mouth. You know, like I said, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but there's a lot of folks out there who enjoy what I do, and they pay closer attention to what I do than I even think they do. So yeah, guys, that's it. I'm going to wrap this video up. That's going to be a wrap on the Super Glide series for now, unless in my historical work, I run across something that I think's significant, and I'll bring it to you in another video. But I tell you guys, I've just enjoyed today. You know, haven't put a whole lot of miles on, but I have gotten to ride, and I've enjoyed making this content. So I'll tell you what, guys, I'm going to drop it right here. Like, comment, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and do me a favor, guys, y'all take care of yourselves, will you? Take care of each other. Until the next time, I'm T-Bone, and this has been Rolling with T-Bone.